Streets 993, your choice of hip hop and R&B. C-Dub is in here, and this man has been here. He's not a stranger. You guys have seen him on the Instagram, the Facebook, and the YouTube. I got Mr. Terrence Blakesley in the building. How you doing, sir?
Great. Good to be here. It's a blessing and an honor to come back and try to, in my humble opinion, dispense some more knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in this thing called the building world.
I know that's right, man. So we got this called Building with Blake. On the show today, we're going to be talking about some home improvement things, some DIY things, and projects that you can do to invest in your most important asset that you have, which is your home. So we're going to talk about that. And then today we're going to be talking about wood fencing. A lot of people want to get fencing around their house to change, the look of the house. And there's a lot of intricate things in wood fencing that you need to know and how to protect that and everything. But I want to go ahead and kick it off. And can you tell us some advantages of choosing wood fencing for outdoor spaces over other materials?
Okay, great. I'm glad you started off with that because that's a very important factor that one must assess when they're choosing what type of fence, because there's a variety of different products out there. You got, and the major ones right now is going to be wooden fencing, then PVC fencing, and then they also got some products coming out which is made of composite.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is, I highly encourage individuals when they're choosing fencing. Of course, it's based upon your budget, but be careful of the lowest price wins. Now, what we're talking about, and I'm going to explain the reasons why. When we're talking about the most popular one, which is wood fencing, you'll see at various big box stores, the typical fence is a 6-foot dog ear fence. So that's the slats. They're about 6 inches wide or 5.5, and those are nailed up. Now, the thing that you want to pay close attention to is, if possible, pay for the higher price one. And you say, what's the difference between the higher price one and the lower price one? And it's usually anywhere between 75 cents to $1 plus. And when you're looking at them, now looking at them when they're sitting there in the stack, you can't tell the difference. But when you get closer, simplistic terms, there's a thin one and a thicker one.
Okay.
And you may be saying, well, I'm enticed to the thinner one. But what happens is when you install that thinner one, what you have to understand is the sun, once they're installed, looks pretty at first, but what happens is that wood expands and contracts, and the gaps you didn't have when you first started, you end up having them a little bit later. Not to mention, because that wood is shrinking.
Right.
Not to mention that the thinner it is and it's standing up there vertically, when the sun hits it, then it starts curling and cupping and things of that nature. So within a short period of a couple years, what was once a beautiful fence becomes an eyesore.
Right.
So the thicker ones, which usually falls in between 3/4 of an inch, they are a lot less prone to have that happen. So that's number one. Number two is understand, going into the wooden fence realm, there's going to be some maintenance. We discussed this with wooden decks previously. That fence is going to take a beating. It takes a beating when wind comes or storms come. So you have to have a maintenance plan devised or planned when you're putting up that fence. And that includes staining if you want a particular color, and also waterproofing. And what that does is, when it rains and things of that nature, that waterproof or that sealer blocks the water from penetrating that into the wood, and therefore cracking and splitting. Okay. And so it needs to be an aggressive, because that's a lot of wood, depending on the size of your fence and the area you're trying to cover. That's a lot of area that wood is exposed, and it could begin to break down if there's no maintenance plan involved in the care of your wooden fence.
Okay, that's good to know. What are some key factors that homeowners should consider when selecting the type of wood for their outside fencing?
Well, again, there's the thickness. thicker the better.
The thicker the better.
Thicker the better. Of course, there's a myriad of other styles where you got your split rail fence, your horizontal three board fence, things of that nature. So the thing is, keep in mind the maintenance factor is the most crucial. Now, if you have the budget to step up a little bit, then they have what they call as a PVC fence. And so basically it's made up.
Those cost a little more than the wood?
Yes. So that PVC fence is going to cost more on the front end, but it's virtually no maintenance.
Yeah.
And so all you've got to do to maintain that is basically just clean it with a pressure washer.
But it is
and weed, right, exactly. Yep. Dust, dirt, things of that nature. But you don't have the cupping, you don't have the shrinking, you don't have the cracking. So there's a lot of benefits that of stepping up to that PVC fence that's beneficial to the homeowner. Then there's also aluminum fencing, which is also that comes with powder coating, things of that nature to ward off the elements of the house. But there again, it is a step up. But you got to ask yourself, instead of me staining and pressure washing every single year, replacing boards, how much am I saving, or how much less work am I having to do in the long run?
Right. So let me ask you on the PVC. What was the question I had on that? Does the PVC, which one of the fences is good for the property, for the value of the home?
That, of course, the composite and the PVC is going to increase the value of the home.
Okay.
Because normal wood fencing, anyone knows that purchases a house, whether it's new or used, then they see a huge wooden fence put up, there's going to be some maintenance involved.
Okay.
Now, I say that to say this. Now, there's different species of wood. Say, for instance, the biggest seller in our area here in the Nashville market is pressure-treated fencing. Mm-hmm. But then you could step the game up and go with a western cedar fencing or even a redwood fencing. And redwood, if you do your little research in redwood is impervious, somewhat. Let me say that. I don't want to make that say 100%, but it is known to be impervious against the weather, bugs, things of that nature, insects and things. It's a great natural product. So if you're trying to sell a home or resell a home and you put, I've got redwood fencing on there or western red cedar fencing on there, that is going to boost the price of the house or what the house is worth.
Okay, that's good to know, because I had a couple of people hit me up like, see, what type of fence should I get? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me ask my man here. He's going to give all the details. I'm seeing that there's some issues with pests and infections and stuff with the wood. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
You will have less of that when you're talking about using a western red cedar product or a redwood product, because they're naturally fighters against pests and things of that nature. The regular treated pine, wood-borne bees love them.
I was just going to ask you that next. What about them bees?
Wood-borne bees love them. Woodpeckers love them, because what happens is once that wood is injected with a chemical to make it weatherproof somewhat. Mm-hmm. And once over time that chemical begins to break down, essentially what you have is a semi-treated piece of pine. And so that's when the woodpeckers come in, the wood-borne bees, and they do their thing to continue to work on that particular board or whatnot.
Okay, that's good. Can you walk us through the process of installing, for the people who want to, DIY it themselves? What's the process installing a wood fence? From the planning stage all the way to I'm completed, I got the screws on the handles and everything.
Absolutely. There's an okay way, and then there's a good way.
Okay,
in my humble
give us
opinion,
the okay way.
The okay way is you hire ABC whoever to come up and put the fence up. What first thing they're going to do is they're going to dig the holes for the posts.
Right.
Now, an okay way is to use 4x4s, 4x4 by 8 posts. The great way is use 6x6s. Why is that? Gives more
And
stability.
that makes it you're talking about the length of the post, right?
The thickness of the post.
Yeah.
So the deal is, you got to remember, those things are expanding and contracting and shrinking and things of that nature. So if you got a 6 foot or even an 8 foot fence, over time, if you use 4x4s, they're going to kind of twist on you. And it's really hard to dig those posts out that's set in some sort of concrete. That's another thing. Make sure your post is set in concrete. Every single post. Don't let anyone tell you that digging in the ground, just covering it with dirt is enough. Also,
the dirt to get wet, and
and the post to shift,
start moving, right?
So if you ride down neighborhoods and see some posts leaning, you know what the problem is. Another thing is it's better that they mix the concrete. So many just pour the dry concrete in there, pour some water on it, and then cover it up with dirt. Instead of mixing it up. There's a reason why it becomes stronger. The mix is stronger when it's properly mixed. Also, when they're installing it, and most guys do this, most fencing companies do this, the framing of it, they use 2x4s. So 2x4s treated or whatnot, that's pretty much standard. But then when they put the boards up, especially if you're using 6 foot or 8 foot fence boards vertically, a lot of guys or a lot of companies, they'll come through with their nailing guns and just nail the boards up.
Right.
Well, it's okay if they use a proper ring shank galvanized nail. And ring shank galvanized nails have ribs on them. And those ribs grab into the 2x4. So if they're just using a regular smooth shank galvanized nail, when that wood starts expanding and contracting, guess what those nails are going to do?
The boards going to start coming down.
And the nails are going to back out. The great way and the top way of doing it is using an exterior wood screw. So what happens is it takes a little bit longer, but it's a more it's a better job, installation job when that's done. So those wood screws, which are exterior, have an exterior covering on them, they go into the wood and grab onto the wood. So it's less likely or less prone to separate from the wood. So they'll grab it a lot stronger. What a lot of folks don't know is that, here in Middle Tennessee, sometimes we have some bad windstorms. So those screws, those wood screws, keep that unit together to the 4x4 or 6x6 in better cases, to the 2x4 framing, so it doesn't pull or separate from that. I made the mistake many moons ago by using some regular galvanized nails we had, and at that time we lived on an acre, and a windstorm come through, and my whole fencing was leaning. Because it just looked like an S, because once that wind got a hold of it, start pulling it, it was pulling it in all different directions.
Right.
And so from that point forward, any time that I built the fence, it was quicker with the gun, with a smooth shank nail. Yeah. But with those screws, they really clamp in on that whole project.
Okay, so do you recommend, I've seen this, drywall screws to hold to hold the boards up there?
Let me say this, and a lot of customers may not know this, and a lot of homeowners may not know this. And I'm going to just keep it real with you. If you see someone that's installing your brand new exterior fence with drywall screws, and how you know they drywall screws, normally they're either black or gray. Fire them. Fire them right off the bat. Fire them, because there is one or two things going on. Either they don't know what they're doing, or they're trying to pull something over your eyes. Because what happens, why is that? Sheetrock screws. One of the first things that's going to happen, if any water penetration, when it does get on that screw, what that screw is going to start doing is going through a corrosive process and breaking down the screw, and eventually make that screw so weak that it's just going to snap like a potato chip. And then that's going to affect your whole entire fence job. So drywall screws, sheetrock screws, multi-purpose screws are a big no.
Make sure you get the right screws for your fence, okay? If you out there trying to do it yourself, you really just need to get somebody to do it, right?
That really knows what they're doing.
They really know what they're doing.
Or at least do your research. It's about YouTube University. Now it's like, now check who's giving the class in that YouTube University. But there's a lot of great individuals out there, a lot of great contractors, a lot of product knowledge out there to lead you to do the right direction. If you don't know, contact us here at Bill with Blake. We're going to
get the information. Just put your comments down there at the bottom. I got another question. At my house, our homeowners association, if you want to have a shed, the shed has to be in the back in the fence. Mm-hmm. Well, my fence doesn't have a gate. Mm-hmm. So what do you recommend as far as cutting, like where to cut, so that everything, like the hinges and stuff, so that it doesn't look all raggedy?
Well, one of the things... Is
there a certain place you need to cut that at?
Okay, so your fence does not have an access point nowhere?
It has, well, it's just regular fence, but I'm talking about big enough where you can, so they can come and drop the whole shed in the backyard. Okay, so... There's no access point for that.
There's no access, so you don't have a gate whatsoever?
I got a gate.
But it's not big enough?
It's not big enough.
Okay. Oh, it's two options there. Hire someone that builds the storage sheds on site. It's a few of them out there. So and that's the difference. Usually the ones that build them on site, you get a little bit better shed. Reason being is they're bringing the materials into wherever, because a lot of these subdivisions now is the gates are not big enough to where you can drop a 8x12 or 12x12 building. Right. So hire someone that builds the sheds on site. The other thing that you can do is that you can put a bigger gate there. Now, what's going to happen is wherever you want the gate, 9 times out of 10, there's going to have to be new posts reset. Because what we have to understand when we're putting a gate there with hardware and things that's going to be swinging, it's going to be a lot more weight that's going to be on those posts. That's especially an instance where I would beef it up to at least a 6x6, because you're going to have hardware depending on how big your gate is. If it's 6x6 or 6x8, big swing gates, you want to have the proper hardware and you want to have the proper posts that you're attaching these gates upon. But it's a pretty simple and quick job for someone that's in that building.
So you just recommend somebody just coming in and just...
Yeah, you have those two options, either putting a brand new gate there, and if it was me, in my opinion, if I'm not going in and out of that gate, say for instance, like your fence is access and you have your garage back there, and if I'm not going in and out, it's really no purpose. And if your rod line or your push mowers get through the existing gate that you have, what I would just do if you want a storage building is hire someone that builds it on site.
Okay, that's good to know. Are there any specific maintenance tips homeowners should follow to prolong the lifespan of their wooden fence?
Yes, sir. Clean it, stain it, and seal it.
Clean it, stain it, seal it.
See, most folks don't realize just, you put a fence up there, and that's taking the brunt of storms, rain, snow, things of that nature. So from a distance, it may not look like it needs to be clean, but up close, all those particles are constantly hitting that wood surface. And it's sort of like rocks, little rocks that continuously hit the fence. So what has to happen is it needs to be pressure washed, clean by meaning pressure washing. So pressure washing, when that takes place, it's going to, of course, clean the dirt out of it, but also it's going to clean the exterior fibers. Now, what's the major purpose of cleaning the exterior fibers? And a lot of us, I'm going to say us because I've done it before, we just think slapping another coat of sealer or whatnot or paint on top of something and we're good. But what that does without pressure washing, and what
kind of like putting cologne on you took a bath
on top of something, and all that does is prolong the problem, and may even accelerate the problem. So you want to clean it, let it dry, And what that does is expose the wood fiber. So when you go back in with your stain and your sealer, that wood is absorbing it. If you just slap some paint or some stain on some dirty, it's just going to sit on the outside. And it's really not going to serve no purpose. I don't know. You told me how you had done some houses, redone some houses and real estate, things of that nature. Have you ever went up in a house and you could look at a window or look at something's painted and it looks like it's about a 1/4 inch paint that's on there, and you think on there, it's just paint on top of paint, and it covers up the problem a little bit, but it's not the proper way of doing it.
Getting some information on here. Building with Blake, man. We on the show talking about wood fencing. Some of you guys DIY projects. You want to try to do it yourself. The summertime is coming. You like, you know what? I'm just going to try to work on it. On the show today, that's what we're doing. We're talking about this, asking questions to help you out so that you can get your fence done. In terms of design and customization, what options do homeowners have with wooden outdoor fencing?
That can get wild and crazy. And I say that because it depends on your terrain. It depends on your ground, because in Tennessee, it's a lot of clay that you hit when you start digging. But with that being said, you've got your privacy fencing, you've got your shadow box fencing, and your shadow box is essentially, it gives a line and also some extended privacy benefits with that. If we're talking about vertical fencing, we've got 4-foot fencing, your old picket fencing that you could kind of see your neighbor, things of that nature. Then you step up to a privacy fence to where the common thing is, again, your 1x6 dog-eared fence boards, which they stand about 6 foot tall. And a lot of these subdivisions now are even going 8-foot privacy fences. So those are the things that you can do as far as design-wise if you want privacy. Now, if you're looking for aesthetics, things of that nature, there's split rail fence, which you can use cedar for that. And then we're talking about the 3-board fence that you see, 3 or 4-board fence that's ran horizontally that you see on a lot of farms that's painted black. So it just depends on what are you trying to accomplish and what are you trying to achieve in your overall look of your house. But as far as fence design, sort of like decks, you can get wild and crazy out there. It just depends on what you want to do.
Okay, that's good to know. What are some eco-friendly practices or materials that can be incorporated into the construction of the outdoor fencing?
Oh, that's a good question. One of the things that you can do is when you're installing your post, you can put what they make is plastic or even aluminum post sleeve. Now, what's the purpose? Sleeve.
Okay, post sleeve.
And so what it is eventually about, it can range depending on manufacturer, anywhere from, I say, 12 inches to 2 foot. And what that does is, one of the things that you have to do when you install in the fence eventually is weed eat around it. Okay. And so that sleeve there, when someone's coming through weed eating, especially if it's not you, they could care less what they weed eating.
Yeah.
So over time, if you're consistently or constantly weed eating and that weed whacker is hitting that post, what is it doing? It's eating up the post. So instead of eventually having to take down that post, put in a landfill, things of that nature, those post sleeves save the post and protect the post as well. Another thing, eco-friendly, what you can do is step up to a PVC fence or composite fence, because they don't degrade as fast. Matter of fact, PVC is virtually non-degradable. And it's not going to the landfills and things of that nature. So you don't have to replace fencing as often. But if you are using wood fencing, one of the things as far as eco-friendly is look at the stain manufacturers, look at your sealant manufacturers, and it may cost a little bit more, but see what type of chemicals are being put in there and make sure that they're eco-friendly, not only to, especially if you have pets, animals. A lot of these fences are keeping horses in, things of that nature. The thing that we're touching the fences, you're putting shrubbery up against the fencing, in some cases even food up against the fencing. So you want to make sure you're using eco-friendly or environmentally friendly products so it doesn't transfer to your animals, to your pets, to your food, to your shrubs, things of that nature.
PVC and wood fencing. If they're leaning and damaged, which is more challenging to replace?
Probably wood fencing because there's so many parts. Now, very rarely would the composite fencing, unless there's a huge storm that come through, well, going back to PVC fencing, because that product is so much lighter, okay? Mm-hmm. And usually with PVC fencing, there's minimal screws that needs to be put in there. Now, what PVC fencing has, as far as the post, you still use wooden posts, but what happens is, in most cases, there are some systems out there that doesn't require it, but usually it's either a hollow 4x4 or a sleeve that goes over the post. So the things that
a PVC sleeve over the wooden post.
Over the wooden post, or some companies put out a 4x4 thick enough in the layers of the PVC where you don't have to use a 4x4 in the ground, because again,
so is the inside hollow?
Yeah, the inside is hollow.
Okay, but
again, the reason for that is because PVC is so much lighter compared to wood.
Yeah.
So now let me say this: the wooden fencing is probably cheaper to repair in an instance or quickly, because you're talking about, especially if you go with the inexpensive boards, you're talking about if a board falls down, a board becomes cupped, you're talking about anywhere from $1 to maybe $1.50 on the inexpensive side to replace that 1x6x6 dog-eared fence board. Now, if you got posts leaning in the treated fencing realm, things of that nature, 2x4s, you've got to be a little bit handy in order to go in there, take out the damaged piece, reset the post. Probably need some help when you're resetting the post, because you're mixing at least 80-pound bags of concrete, or at least 60s, because when you pull that, when that post comes out of the ground, the concrete is usually attached to it. So you got to re-dig it out, dig it a little bit deeper, pour new concrete up in there to properly set that post.
Okay.
A little bit more challenging on the wooden part.
Okay. How do you handle ground settling and ensure that the fencing remains stable over time?
That's where you really need to make sure, read up on it, or again, hire someone that has some sort of knowledge in that realm. And what has to happen is you can't dig 8 inches and then try to set the post. That's the challenge. It needs to be at least 12 inches. And the deal is, to properly do that, you got to dig around. You're going to hit clay if you're down here. So it'd be wise to probably go to the neighborhood rental center and rent a post hole digger.
That's the drill thing.
Yeah, the drill, because you're trying to... the manual.
Your arm's going to be tired as hell.
You're going to be worked out. You're going to get a workout. Tamp it. And even in some places... Now, as far as codes is concerned, they ask for a layer of gravel underneath, things of that nature, to kind of fight off or ward off against the settling. So it's a lot of things that you can do to help with if there was some settling to take place. But the main thing is dig out a proper hole, dig out the proper depth, and pour the proper, don't cheat or skimp or on the concrete. Don't try to do, it's usually, a rule of thumb is usually a bag for every hole. Don't try to do 3 holes for one bag, things of that nature.
Is there a particular type of concrete that you recommend using?
Just right now, with that being said, I'm glad you asked me that. Normally, you could just use the regular concrete that's at your big box stores. It takes a little bit longer to set up. But then they also make what they call fast setting concrete. So say, for an example, if you're, a storm is coming in 24 hours, and you got to fix this fence, that fast setting concrete will set up extremely faster than your normal concrete. Costs a little bit more, but it sets up and locks that post in, so you don't have to worry about it. And I forgive me if I don't know the exact timing on it, but I think it sets within 24 hours for the fast setting. To where the other one, the normal concrete, will take a little bit longer than that. So that's where you see the proper way of doing it is first we'll go ahead and set all our posts, and you'll see guys that put bracing on there to make sure it doesn't shift with the wind and things of that nature for a couple days. And then they'll come back and nail the 2x4s or whatnot. But that fast setting concrete in a few hours.
Regular concrete, what you think about 2 days?
For it to set, depending on the temperature. Because down here we get, we get some days that's 100 degrees. So on those days it could set, in 24 hours. That fast setting concrete, if it's 100 degrees, a few hours.
So the warmer it is, the faster it'll
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you're trying to do this in the cold months, it's going to take you a little bit longer to get that stuff settled. Can you provide some details on the breakdown on the cost involved, including the material, the labor, and any additional fees? If somebody was getting, I guess we can do 2 different styles, the wood fencing and the PVC fencing.
Normally, and I don't want to put out any false pricing on that. As far as cost comparison, let's say, for instance, you're putting a mid-level dog-eared fence up, and let's say we're running them 8 foot on center, things of that nature. When you have your wood, and let's say comparing it to the PVC, entry-level PVC, it's probably going to run 3 times as much. Okay. As far as an 8 foot section, let's see here. You're making me pull out my calculator again.
Come on, man. These people ain't know it.
16.
Building with Blake on the show today, baby.
30. 30. 32. You probably anywhere, again, depending on what type of material, because they make different grades of treated material that we discussed and different size. You're talking about for the 8 foot section starting off at about $100. Okay. So if somewhere in that realm, that's the dog-ear fencing, your screws, your 2x4s, your 4x4s, your concrete, things of that nature. So if you're looking to replace an 8 foot section, you're probably talking about starting at about $100. Now, if you were to do that in PVC, you probably start talking, depending on the brand, things of that nature, the system, probably about $300.
Okay. Are there any warranties with any fences when you get them?
Now, when you get into the composite and the PVC and aluminum, there will probably be, depending on the manufacturer, there will be some type of warranties. Now, when we're talking about PVC, they usually cover color fading, things of that nature, breakdown, composite the same way, aluminum fencing probably the same way. The only warranty that you probably going to get with the treated is the standard store warranty, and that's about it. So no extended.
What is that?
Normally, if you lean on the store, if the boards start breaking down, cracking within the first 30 days or somewhat, then you may have a case that they may refund your money on there.
The magic word is may. What is the estimate timeline for the installation process from start to finish? Somebody was doing. I should have measured my yard so I can kind of give an idea of what size backyard.
Normally, for the average size house, let me just say this: if you, the average size in a neighbor subdivision or whatnot, house may be 1,600 square foot. It's perfectly flat. Normally, these guys that's in that type of business don't want to spend too much time there. So what they normally do is the one day, whether it's PVC or treated, they come and set the posts. Once the posts lock up, firm up, which may take a couple days, then that other day they coming out, they're putting the whole fence up. So normally 2 to 3 days on site is the most, even for some of the larger jobs, because they got to get in and get out. The main thing that holds them up is the post setting. And then how many gates, because gates slow up the process because there's more hardware and things of that nature. So I would say at the most average house, level ground, things of that nature, actual time on the job site is probably 2 days.
Okay, that's good to know, man. I got my man Terrence Blakesley here on the show. Shapard Lumberyard is here giving us some information about your wooden fence at your home. Is there anything you want to leave the people that's listening right now who've been on YouTube and they like, you know what, I just want to jump out there. I think I can do it. What do you want to say to them?
Let me just say, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Just make sure that anything's possible. And if you could swing a hammer and use a cordless drill, things of that nature, it's a little bit of work involved and a little bit of study. And armed with those few things, you can do it. As far as we're really talking about fencing, you can do it. Just get a good mentor, ask for some advice, read the directions.
Please. Don't try to look at the pictures.
Read the directions. And you'll be all right, but have the mentality, yes, you can. And you can do this. Or at least have enough knowledge to where if you hire someone, you can question them and let them know that you have a little bit of knowledge into going into this project.
I know that's right, man. Mr. Terrence, thank you for being on the show today. Building with Blake. So we on the show talking about some home improvement things you can do yourself at your house. Can you give us some information about how they can get in contact with you? Maybe they want to get some materials and stuff from you.
You can contact me either through this radio show, or you contact me at my store, 931-388-3612. Or you could email me at shapardlumberyard@yahoo.com. That's SHAP Lumberyard, all one word, at yahoo.com. Be glad to help, be glad to assist, be glad to put you on the road to success. Like I said, knowledge is power, and yes, you can.
Yes, you can. My name is C-Dub. You follow me on Instagram at I am DJ C-Dub. That's at I am DJ CDUB. And also follow us and subscribe to us at Streets993 on YouTube. Thank you, Mr. Terrence, for coming through. This door is always open, man. We thank you for all your information. You come and dropping knowledge on us and how we can make sure that our fences don't have that gangster lean on it.
That's right.
Keeping it right here on Streets 99.3.